Hi, my name is Ed Hodge, and this is Uncommon.
Uncommon is a production by Neuralle, an agency that helps both brands and talent tell their story. To learn more, just visit neuralle.com. That's Neuralle.com. My guest this week, Ed Hodge, co-founder of MiHIGH. Ed, Zoe gave me a handy little loop in to start off, and you've already got it for me in the background. It's that salt lamp.
Yes.
Where's this fascination come from?
They just look really good.
Yeah.
That's it. I've got 6 of them.
You got 6?
I've got one here next to me.
Jesus.
A lot of people are like, oh, do you believe in the health benefits and all that kind of stuff? But I'm not into that. I just really enjoy the lighting. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it because it's like a warm sort of color?
Yeah. It's like warm, soft. At night when you're sitting down in the evening doing a bit of work, it's beautiful. Really good. So strongly recommend.
What's you're I think you're a bachelor, right? You're in a single room apartment at the moment in lockdown.
Yeah.
And a founder. What's sort of your day-to-day look like at the moment?
Yeah, it's been challenging since we're kind of confined to our homes, that's for sure. But my day-to-day, I try to get some exercise in the morning, go outside, go for a run or a walk, do a load of stretching, seeing as my body's starting to ache a little from all this sitting down.
Yeah.
Have my breakfast and then I'm straight into work.
Yeah.
And then I'll do like another workout, maybe mid-morning, mid to late morning. And that's about it, really. Try to socialize as much as possible, go for a walk with some friends.
What are you doing for your workout at the moment?
I've managed to pull together a little bit of a home gym. So I've got behind the computer, it's like a pull-up bar, got some rings, got some dumbbells, got some barbells. There's a good view of the city. So it's actually, I quite like it, to be honest. I'm pretty happy with it.
What would you normally do for exercise? Are you like a BFT or F45 type guy, or do you just go to like a classic weights gym?
Yeah, classic weights gym.
Yeah.
I like to mix it up. I do some boxing as well. Boxing, that's tough, cardio-wise.
The reason I asked is I've been doing BFT lately, and I've just cancelled my membership because I realized like I need to just go to a classic weights gym because I've got an online PT. And I'm trying to work out what's the gym to go to in my area. Do you go to one of those 24/7 type places, or do I find like some specialized gym?
I go to a Good Life gym. Just normal, because I'm just a creature of convenience. I don't want to. It's a couple hundred meters away.
Yeah,
that's the main criteria for me.
Is it close?
Yeah, but it's up to you, man. I mean, if you want a personal trainer to work closely with on every single session, then I'd say it's more an importance of the trainer as opposed to the gym.
Yeah.
But there's tons around. That's for sure.
Now, like with all guests, I like to dig into their early childhood, so to speak. What's sort of your earliest memory in life?
Probably playing with bricks when I was like at a farm with my childhood best mate. We used to like try to lift bricks around and follow our dads around the farm and annoy them and drive around in our little like toy cars. That's probably my earliest memory.
What part of the UK?
Near Sheffield, so up in the north. That's where I was born, and then moved down to the south when I was about 5 or 6.
Okay, and where in the south?
Bournemouth.
Okay. And are your parents from the north?
Yeah, so we're a northern family.
Yeah,
I managed to escape the accent though. Which
I was going to say Sheffield, like it's normally a strong accent, right?
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Rough accent. But I think moving to the south when I was 5 and then Australia when I was 13, it's just kind of, I don't even know what I sound like anymore. But yeah, it's not Northern English, that's for sure.
It's a confused English British accent. That's what I'd say. There's parts of it where you go, oh yeah, he's definitely British, but then it's sort of like, because Lauren, who you've met, my wife, her mum is from the UK, so she's from Yorkshire.
Okay.
And like Yorkshire, for anyone who knows, they normally have a really intense accent, but hers is just a bit different. Like it's not completely, like she's definitely English. You can tell she's English, but it's like for Lauren growing up, she didn't actually realize how English her mum was, because when you're around it so often, it starts to sound like you start to pick up the Aussie components, if that makes sense. So yeah. I always find that interesting. What did your parents do?
So my dad was in IT, like big phone companies and things like that. And my mum was a school teacher.
Okay.
So
just a local school teacher?
Local school teacher. I mean, dad was in the army for like forever before that. I think like 15, 20 years or something.
Okay.
To sales and IT. And so mum was a maths teacher.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Why did they ever tell you why you moved? Like, why did the family move to Australia?
I think it was kind of a bit unsure, but looking back on it, it was more just mum and dad were a bit frustrated with England at the time and their jobs. And Australia has this mysterious lure to English people of this foreign, pleasant land that is full of sun and beaches and relaxed vibes and all that kind of stuff. So for everyone that hasn't been to England, it can be quite grey and so they just wanted to change, and I love the country now. Really like Australia.
Yeah, and there was some, I'm just trying to think, what year did you guys come out here?
2007.
Okay. Yeah, because there's always been, like as an example, Lauren, because her mother was born in the UK, is guaranteed British citizenship if she applies for it. It's £1,300 to apply. She'll get her citizenship. So there's all sorts of benefits of being associated with the mother country, as they say, that allows people to come out here. My experience of Brits coming here, like you said, and experiencing or thinking that has been working in the finance industry. A lot of Brits came out probably the same time, like 2000, whenever the GFC hit, the British economy tanked and you got a lot of young people that came out here for work.
Yeah.
So I remember my first job in the industry, it was 2012. So it was still talking 5 years after. But there was just a lot of expat Brits in Australia who'd often found Australian girlfriends, partners, and had settled here. And I know at least 5 different guys that they've either gotten married, like they have whole families now, and they're Australian citizens. So it's the one thing they repeat back to me is what you said, is like the lifestyle is just better.
Yeah,
like it's hard in the UK. So because there's more people, but also the lifestyle components. It's sunny. It's like being in Spain for parts of the year.
It's the weather. The weather's important. The weather has a big impact on your mood.
Massive. Huge. This one guy from Liverpool was telling me like it just, when he was there, it would just you'd be lucky if you get 30, 60 days a year where it's just clear skies.
Yeah.
All right. So you studied Bachelor of Commerce at Monash. Obviously at this point you'd been in Australia for a while. Jumped straight into 12 months of PwC in assurance. Summer intern back at IMG London for 3 months, working on the British Open. Back here in Australia, you're working, I think it's 2015, you're working at Dent Global in sales and partnerships. There's a gap there between 2015 and 2020 on your LinkedIn profile.
That's what I just stopped using.
Yeah. So I'm curious what you were up to in that time before MiHIGH was founded in April of 2020.
Yeah, I really should look at my LinkedIn. But pretty much, so I'll kind of rewind a little bit. I went to university, commerce, thinking that I wanted to do business, and people just said, oh, if you want to do business, go work for a big company. So worked at PwC for a year. Wasn't for me for multiple reasons. Started to really look at the entrepreneurial business owner side of things, and that really excited me. So I went to work at this consulting company, Dent, which pretty much was a consulting company for small businesses. And it got me a ton of exposure across all different sectors, types of businesses, types of personalities, and really it helped me to begin to understand what works, what doesn't work in business. Because in that area, that was me building my foundational knowledge for how to grow a business by getting exposure to hundreds and thousands all at once. But then I quickly realized, okay, well, if I want to learn about business, I need to learn about digital marketing, which then didn't really do a lot of. So I went to work for a marketing agency. So went to work for King Kong in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And worked there for about 18 months, I think.
Okay.
And learned a ton about agency life and e-commerce, and just really started to develop an internal criteria as to what works in e-commerce, from a top-down approach, but also a tactical approach.
Okay.
Then pretty much just worked for myself for a bit with some clients, growing their businesses, being a bit of a jack of all trades in their marketing department. And then at the same time was ruthlessly running ideas through this kind of criteria, and saying no to just hundreds of ideas. And then we started MiHIGH.
Okay. And that was with Wyatt. So that makes sense. I was reading this story about how you guys would be bouncing ideas off each other. And I think a lot of early stage founders have that in, the early days of just finding the right idea. I think the advantage you would have had is working at Dent, because you would see, I experienced it, because you get people as an agency owner, you get people that reach out to us today. Let's say they engage us for doing TikTok ads, and they're just sort of in that entrepreneur stage, not entrepreneur, but they're just spending so much time on planning as opposed to actually thinking seriously about the problem.
Yeah.
I had one call the other day where the person was wanting to get a quote for a proposal on us running TikTok ads. And I'm like, when's the product launching? And he said, February next year. I'm like, hey, come back a month beforehand. This is just a waste of your time, because, you start to poke holes in their product identity, so to speak. So I get a sense that you would have had that time, because I went through that experience of what that guy did, where I was just faffing around essentially with not ideas, but entrepreneurism. I've this idea, I've had it. I'm just going to go start this business and this thing without thinking about it properly. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting to me. And I get a sense, I'm interested to know, what were the golden principles you gleaned from that time at Dent and King Kong? What had to meet this criteria?
Yeah. So, firstly, I think just within any endeavor, right? If you want to become a professional golfer, it's in your best interests to hang around golfers, get access to the best knowledge, the best techniques, all that kind of stuff, and just immerse yourself in that space so you know absolutely everything about how it works, and you intuitively know the craft that you're trying to master. And so working at those consulting companies, I was able to do that. And what I was noticing all the time was people that are working as an everyday job and decide they want to start a business. And we know they haven't immersed themselves in business at all. And it's not their fault. Everyone has that urge to start a business, I think. But what I'm grateful for and fortunate to have done is actually been immersed in that space beforehand, so I know how it all works. And people just try to start one straight away without that knowledge. So that's the first thing. Obviously, there is something to be said for just doing it and you'll learn on your way, but I prefer to make things easy for myself.
Yeah.
And then in terms of e-commerce, it was more around this criteria for product. Okay. So before we even talk about the tactics of marketing, you need to have a good product. Again, it's about making things easy for yourself, not fighting an uphill battle and really stacking the odds in your favor. Mm-hmm. So we looked at, okay, well, what's a fast growing sector? So we didn't want to be, if you look at, trends, they'll start off, gather pace for a while, really gain momentum, and then eventually might tail off. So if you look at 2019, if we started to launch something perhaps in like the paleo movement, we're probably a bit behind the eight ball. That was more of 2013 kind of thing. So we wanted to look at something that was up and coming as a trend. We wanted to look at something with limited competition. Because we were bootstrapped, we didn't have millions of VC cash to spend. We wouldn't be able to bootstrap our way into a very saturated market. So again, another example would have been like teeth whitening, for example. Teeth whitening was still a growing industry, probably more at its peak in 2019. But if we wanted to compete in that, there's way too much competition. There are market leaders already that just have too much credibility for us to make an indent with.
Yeah.
And then another thing was just the unit economics. So a lot of people will try to start businesses, especially bootstraps, where they're trying to start like a fashion brand or just something with a low AOV, like anything below like $100. From my experience at analyzing all of these e-commerce businesses at the agency, it was always difficult just due to the advertising costs. Unless you had insane repeat purchases and a really high customer lifetime value, it was difficult to scale. So we wanted to have something quite expensive, which is why we chose a $700 product.
Yeah. And so is that because the product is cheap, it's easier from an opportunity cost perspective to just launch the product, and therefore there's more likely to be people doing it?
It's more the profitability. Like with the way Facebook's going, if you're spending $40 per customer acquisition on Facebook, but your average order value is only 70.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Your P&L is pretty much all Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's tricky to really scale a brand like that unless you're more advanced than some of the other areas of marketing. It's just, a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then we also just wanted a product that was what we kind of call very Facebook adable and very PRable. So we were able to get the scale we did very quickly because our product worked for Facebook ads, and it was a kind of novel idea that people in PR and the media really liked. Some products just are inherently difficult to sell on Facebook.
Yeah.
So those things where it's like, okay, is it a fast growing trend? Is it easy to break into the market because there's not too many market leaders already? Is the unit economics strong? And is it going to do well on Facebook ads and PR?
Yeah.
A good set of criteria for
a product. Okay. So the thing I gleaned from that is unit economics. So basically a higher margin product, but also you looked at it a bit deeper as something that was a higher AOV as well, which I find quite interesting. Lower competition and potential trend. And I guess I'm intrigued because, I'm sub to things like trends.co.
Yeah.
Every other week, I'll look at a few different trend sites, like being in the TikTok space. We're constantly signing new talent. So I'll look at things like fastest growing creators over the last week or month, like top 10 in Australia or the US, to see if we can pitch them. Look at things like trends on Google. Obviously, in your case, you're working at King Kong, so you've got a real insight as to the specific niches that exist. I've got a real insight running an agency and seeing the leads that come through. So like the big thing at the moment is skincare.
Yep.
Everyone's starting a skincare brand. The other one is jewelry is another big one. I reckon in the last month, we got 7 or 8 leads for different skincare brands. It's crazy. Yeah. So someone who's not necessarily at the precipice or at that point where you are at an agency like King Kong, how were you thinking about these specific trends in particular?
Pretty much exactly what you said, like the trends.co or something like that.
Trends.co, yeah.
Yeah, by Sam Part is incredible.
Amazing.
Just so good.
$250 a year too. Yeah. So worth it.
Yeah. That would be literally the main thing. And then it's difficult because unless you are in an agency or something, or getting exposure to hundreds of businesses, it is difficult to get that pulse on the trends. So I would say just as many e-commerce newsletters as you can and follow as many thought leaders in e-commerce. And that's how you're going to get a stronger pulse as possible.
Yeah, I just second that. I think trends.co, there's certain things like BigCommerce is another good one. There's many. I think to your point, it just takes time. It probably would take someone 3 months to really get into the nitty gritty of that space, signing up to a bunch of newsletters, because you find out what's shit and what's good. And then you start to glean from that, and it would take you time. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned from your experience and others, like other companies that come to us when they engage us, is it takes that initial period of time to just work it out and think about it rationally and properly.
Yeah.
But I like those principles. They're really good, because I know like Lauren and I as co-founders, we've banked on this idea of konbini, this convenience thing that exists in Japan. And we're like, at some point, because like we bought the domain, we've got the handles on every single social platform. We want to do something that relates to convenience. We're just waiting for the right trend to come along. So that sort of stuff I find really, really informative. So MiHIGH only really started about a year or so ago.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you guys would have been involved in product iteration before that, but it launched April 2020. Wyatt lives in Brisbane. You live in Melbourne. We met at the July party. I don't even know when that was. It was recent, right? Yeah. Probably one of the few months where it wasn't locked down, where we weren't locked down.
Yeah.
You know, the original idea was born out of the frustration of having to pay each time to go to your local sauna. And I think in hindsight now, thinking about this problem, because my PT is hounding me to go do a week of like infrared saunas. I'm like, I can't do it. We're locked down. And also like they're not few and far between, but when you find them, you've got to be a member at the club, or you've got to pay some really high amount, like $40-50 per session minimum. The product now is available Australia, UK, US. The first year is always a rough one, but for you guys, like it seems like you've done pretty well, but there's always something. I guess I'm curious, what's been the highs and lows that you and Wyatt have learnt over last year?
The highs was, I guess that foundational work that we put in being validated so quickly, because we did have so many product ideas that we said no to. We're like, God damn it. Like we've been literally wanting to do this for years, and we keep saying no to every single idea because it doesn't meet this criteria. And then we finally said yes to something, and it works very, very quickly. Like I remember we did about $100,000 in our first week, including like a $75,000 day, because we were featured in a good news article, and that was just incredible. And then the lows, we had to work out how to do logistics. That was fun, dealing with international warehouses. And
oh yeah, true. Fuck.
We had a bit of a nightmare on Black Friday, and yeah, it was bad. But when you go through challenges like that, yeah, it kind of brings you to another level of excitement about just solving the problem. You know, like it channeled just this incredible drive in us where we were helping out the customer support team on overtime with customer support tickets, taking phone calls at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning to the UK and America. And it was pretty cool in hindsight. Yeah. I'd say the real low has been lockdown induced, and the kind of me being in Melbourne, Wyatt being in Brisbane, working out of an apartment where it feels like I'm just in this room 24/7. Without, like, there's a certain vibe you get when you have your founder next to you, you know?
Yeah.
And you really just have this buzz of excitement about creating something cool. So it's been difficult to channel that energy just being by yourself. So that's been interesting.
Have you managed to see each other yet? Because I know in previous interviews you said that you hadn't, and it may have been sort of mid to late last year, but have you caught up?
Yeah, only a couple of times though.
Okay. So you've had time to give each other a hug to celebrate.
Yeah, pretty much. I remember when we made our first $1 million in revenue, we still hadn't seen each other since the first $1 of revenue. And so we ended up just having like a steak and champagne over Zoom.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
I'm always intrigued because there's always something that with co-founders that neither of you can do that the other can do.
Yeah.
I know you've always wanted to run a business together, but what have you learned the most from Wyatt?
He's got a bloody strong work ethic, that's for sure.
Okay.
In terms of skills, like he'd be more design. We're both are design orientated in the sense we know what good design is and can spot design, and we both have a common goal for what we want. But when it comes to actually putting that on paper, mine will look horrific. And so he's got a good design eye. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
That is a very handy skill set. It's the same with Lauren and I. Like I couldn't do as an example, we got this floor plan for the office that we're looking to buy. And I'm like, I'm drawing all this scribbly shit all over it. And she's like, no. She comes back half an hour later and it just looks perfect. Not perfect, but, nearly as good as a draftsman or an architect. Do you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
That's what you need. Because I'm the one who can go sort out the finance and the sale and all that stuff with the agent, but I do not know what to do with the floor plan after that. Right. So lockdown, it's been a double-edged sword for you guys. There's no doubt about that, because without it, there may not have been as much of a push to get this sort of product. I know for sure in my own experience, like I've been debating buying this product in the last month with Lauren, because we've been investing in like a bunch of home sort of fitness products. Good example, I just bought 2 months ago a walking pad, so $600-700 type investment. So worth it, because I can get 10,000 steps a day while raising my desk and essentially just doing all my sales calls and conversations and whatnot. So the next thing on my list after my PT's been nagging me is a infrared sauna. And it's obvious because I'm not at a gym at the moment. I'm not at a gym that has an infrared sauna. It's something that I need regularly. So yeah, I guess I'm intrigued for you. What do you see as being the advantage and disadvantage that you guys have over a standard sauna right now and probably into the future?
It's a different experience. So, a regular sauna, you can have multiple people in there, obviously, and you can move about, stretch, etc., which you can't really in the blanket, because it's almost like you're just relaxing, almost having a power nap, which some people prefer because it's just more peaceful, but you can't move about. And there is something to be said for like when you're in that regular sauna and you can just see how sweaty you are and feel it. Whereas in here, you can't really see like sweat dripping or look at your legs and be like, okay, etc. So it's that different experience for sure.
Okay.
But apart from that, it's a really solid alternate solution for someone that wants the infrared sauna experience, but just doesn't have the space or the money.
Yeah. Because for context, people who don't know, an infrared sauna that can fit 2 people, like a good infrared sauna, is 10 grand at least. So, and some of the better ones, you'd be paying 20, 30 grand, I'd say. Can you see a future when it comes to product development? I guess I should preface this. There's a commonality amongst people that you and I both know. Let's call them smart e-commerce operators, that the game of e-com is to continually develop new product. So, the hard part is defining your expertise. I don't know how you define the expertise for MiHIGH. Maybe it's broadly sauna, but for brands like July, it's travel. For Pear, it's comfort. Like they've been able to identify that. What is it for MiHIGH? And therefore, where does that sort of direct you in terms of product development for you guys?
Yeah, it's really about like convenience of infrared therapy. So bringing infrared therapy into the comfort of your own home. So I won't reveal too much in terms of, we do have a lot of products on the way, which is exciting, but pretty much it's more infrared. So infrared can be used in lots of other different products as well, to help the body with particular things. So yeah, we've got a couple of those on the way.
Have you considered, because, you know, when you think about different types of light therapy, there's also things like ultraviolet, radiation, where you start getting into sort of the medical space. You know, radiation therapy has sort of become one of those areas to replace chemotherapy, because of its impact is a lot better for you in the short term and over the long term as well. But particularly in the short term, because like with chemo, you're pumping chemicals into your body, you drop your hair, all that sort of stuff. So radiation has been a big thing, mainly for like early stage intervention. Is that something that interests you at all?
Not particularly. I think we want to stay away from the medical space too much for now.
Okay.
And just more on that wellness, using infrared therapy to help everyday issues. Yeah, when you get into that medical space, you need to have a lot going on in terms of the product and making sure that you are the beacon of, you know, good information about that thing. And you have to kind of become
a lot of compliance.
You have to become like experts in cancer, pretty much, if we were going to sell that thing.
Yeah,
which we just wouldn't want to get into.
Yeah. No, but it's just interesting when you look at infrared. There's so many different applications, even like, you know, things like night vision and all that sort of stuff, and I think it's hyperspectral from memory. Like I just remember reading about this stuff during the research. There's so many different things. Obviously, one of those is the health component. So you think your niche, your wheelhouse, your area that you stay in will always be infrared, but particularly heating, cooling, or just broadly health?
For the moment, it'll be heating. There are people that use lights. So the light space, I'd say, is way more developed in terms of everyday accessible products. So you've got companies like Juve, for example, that sell infrared lights. Like that goes against our criteria. Like they are $100 million company. And we wouldn't want to go into that space because we think it's just got too many people in it at the moment. But the infrared sauna, infrared heat market, there are other products that are waiting.
But you don't want to say yet, do you? Because that was the thing that I picked up, which sort of shows where you guys are at as a business. And, you know, it's a first year, so you're not going to expect it. But in my own experience, I recently bought, like, on top of the walking pad, I bought like, I had like a mild sleep apnea from mainly my pillow. So it was super mild. Like I think I didn't ever stop breathing when I did this test, but I was snoring for 5% of the night. So I bought this pillow. It's a classic e-commerce thing where they've got upsells for like pillow covers, different types of pillows, sleep masks, all that sort of stuff. And that was the thing going through the checkout process that you guys don't have just yet. So I'm sort of intrigued to see where the upsells go in future, because that, again, would increase that AOV, you know?
Yeah, that is in the pipeline as we speak.
Can you say anything about particular products?
We're going to be launching like a very basic kind of experience kit, which just comes with some towels that you can use inside the blanket to kind of make it a more comforting, relaxing experience.
Cool. Like
branded cleaning kits and things like that. There's not like a additional therapy kind of product, but it's just a little something that helps to build the experience.
Yeah. It just, again, like increases that card value, increases the experience for the consumer. All those little things. Like when I bought that pillow, it just, it was nice to know, okay, actually I can get a pillow cover that's not necessarily like this shitty one that they give you when they send it out. Yeah, all these little things I think add up. So go-to-market is something that interests me. The greatest issue I have as an agency owner is with particularly challenger brands and newer ones that maybe are half the way that you are. is giving them a framework to understand go-to-market. And so you would have had good insight in this. We're in this area of social commerce, which is sort of involving influencers with social media and commissions and ads and all that. And then your classic social selling, which is your pipeline of performance marketing, essentially. For me, I find if you look at sort of the buckets that need to basically work, you've got performance marketing, that sort of brand stuff with influencers, and then sort of integrated product with, say, influencers or PR or stuff like that. And I feel like performance marketing is the one that is consistently missed from people who don't have marketing experience and they can't get it just right. That's mainly what they're coming to us for. So, you know, I find in the first year they're testing too many channels. For you in the first 6 to 9 months, what was most important to you and Wyatt with your go-to-market and getting correct?
Facebook ads.
Okay.
Plain and simple. PR as well, because it just gave us a tremendous amount of reach, which fed it back into our Facebook ads. But like you said, you know, people don't, you see a lot of these challenger brands, they're focusing all on the branding aspect. Yeah. But not on the performance marketing aspect. But the thing that drives scale is Facebook ads. You are never going to get into 7-figure territory if you can't profitably spend upwards of, you know, well, there's going to be outliers to what I say here always, but like you need to be able to comfortably spend, you know, $50,000 a month plus on ads. Yeah. If you can't, you just won't scale. So that's a good point, a very good point, and very topical for me right now. And that we have a customer who we've just gone through the strategy process. We've launched an ad. They're above their break-even ROAS. Let's say it's 1.8. And I think as a general rule of thumb, so long as you're beating your break-even ROAS, you should be spending as much dollars as you can initially, as long as you keep above that range. Now, this particular customer, I feel like they need the confidence to commit those dollars because of previous experiences they've had where maybe they've put in further dollars and the ROAS goes down, or there might be some other little kink that they just didn't really fully understand because they're not marketers, right? Yep. So is there other things that you look for other than that BER to give you confidence to scale? Because at the moment they're spending, you know, a couple of $100 a week, but I know based on the sales they want to get to, they need to spend at least $5,000 to $6,000 a month minimum. So how would you instill confidence in people who are initially starting out around the things that they should look at? I would look at if you're getting sales from other areas, like your organic sales are increasing as well. You're getting really solid reviews. You're getting repeat purchases, if that's a thing for your business, which, you know, should be. Ours is just unique in that sense that we're not, but our next business will be for sure. And so really just getting that intuitive feel that people are really loving your product and they're coming back for more, they're telling their friends about it, they're leaving good reviews, that should be a sign that, okay, we know we've got something good here. And so we need to try to scale this as much as possible. And then you would go in to have a look at, okay, well, can I get my conversion rate on my website as high as possibly can? Like, is there something wrong with my offer? Do I need to change pricing? Do I need to fix something up on that site to get the conversion rate as high as possible? Because loads of people just forget about that when it comes to performance marketing.
True. It's a good point.
Yeah. Like, it's equally as important, you know, you're spending all this money on getting people to click on your Facebook ads. Yeah. But then no attention on what they do once they've clicked
on the actual website. Yeah. And that's a good point because we've had this recently with a few clients in that I think our paid media specialist was saying on average now with the iOS change, Facebook ads can be off by up to 10, 20% in terms of the actual ROAS that they're giving. Yeah. So have your Google tags and your analytics like goals set up correctly. Otherwise you don't actually know what's truly happening.
100%. So, and then look at things like email marketing. Like, are you building a list correctly? Is your abandoned cart functioning well? Is your welcome series functioning well? Yeah. Because you need all of those elements together to work well. But also for us, for example, like if we didn't do PR, then our Facebook ads wouldn't have worked as well. And if we didn't do Facebook ads, our PR wouldn't have worked as well. So everything feeds together.
Yeah, it all adds up, but you also have to have them all going. You can't just do one. You've got to get them all performing. I think email is one that's often overlooked because it's not as sexy.
Yeah.
But yeah, the topical thing for me at the moment has been that conversion rate thing, because I've gone into websites where the tags aren't set up correctly, and like I've seen, we've been running ads and it's not even showing on Google Analytics, which is crazy. Like, as in, it'll show organic channels, email, search, all that sort of stuff. And then for some reason, Facebook paid or cost per click paid is not showing up.
Yeah.
So, I think that's one that's often overlooked. Fulfillment. This would have been something very topical for you over the last year. Obviously, you mentioned before about the experience of launching and that impact on supply chain, dealing with customers. The finishing touch in product is that real experience of fulfillment and not shopping, but what people get when they actually open the box and all that sort of stuff. For a lot of D2C brands, it's been like, particularly brands like July, it's all about getting retail.
Yeah.
And you guys are sort of earlier, so it's probably not as much of a priority right now. And it may not be a priority in future, but how are you thinking about fulfillment and experience? What's the thing that you really want to change there, or are you happy with how it looks?
I think we can definitely improve. Our packaging, we're really happy with.
Yeah.
However, we want to include a couple more kind of like welcome cards in the packaging, and with links to our socials, and scan this code to look at a video as to how to use your blanket. Really make that a warm and fuzzy feeling. Like we included things like in the past 6 months, we included like a carry bag inside the packaging so people can carry their sauna around wherever they want to go instead of putting it in a box. So things like that has worked really well.
Yeah.
But we want to really ramp up the emails to our customers. So creating hype around that expectation of the delivery. So as soon as they've ordered, they'll get emails about how to use, more reviews, just really pump up the excitement, and then even follow up with them and check in as to how they're enjoying it. We could send like curated playlists for them to listen to in their experience, and all things like that.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good one.
There's always work that can be done there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's sort of, do you think that like brick and mortar is something that you consider in future?
Yeah. We just finished, started our first deal with a hotel in London. So we're going to be, this hotel is like very wellness focused. And so they're going to be offering saunas in your own room.
Wow. That's cool.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And then we're still looking at talking with a couple of people about retail deals over in London as well.
Shit, I didn't even think about that. Like all these sort of wellness retreats.
Yeah.
That could be offering that stuff.
Yeah, we do a fair amount of wholesale with wellness retreats too.
Yeah, right.
Where they want 10, 20 of these things to use in their retreats.
Yeah, because that's the other thing you don't think about is if you're on a retreat and let's say there's 20, 30 people there and you've got to do a sauna, average sauna is what, 30 minutes to an hour? Like how do you get 20 people, particularly COVID safe, let's say, in a sauna without spending an outrageous amount of money? That's actually a really good way.
Yeah, you don't.
You can't. You literally can't do it.
Yeah.
What sort of it's August 11th today, I believe. Yeah, it is the 11th. We're in this sort of state here on the east coast of Australia of rolling lockdowns. I think the projections I saw the other day is we'll all be like 80% will be vaccinated by December 8th or something like that. So sort of first week of December. You and I are probably not getting our vaccines for a while. I don't know if you've had it yet, but if you want the Pfizer vax, it's probably going to be another couple months.
Yeah.
What's sort of the next level that you guys want to go to over the next year?
We really want to ramp up the credibility of MiHIGH as a recovery tool.
Okay.
So you've seen the likes of Theragun, for example. What started off as some kind of cool ads where you see people's muscles just vibrating, going, what is this? Is now, the official recovery partner of Manchester City Football Club, Cristiano Ronaldo, you name it. Right?
Yeah, and NFL players have all got it. Yeah.
We already have a ton of professional athletes using the product. And so the next stage is really turning this into a credible, legitimate recovery tool.
Okay.
And different infrared products as well that can be used. So yeah, it's kind of like MiHIGH 2.0.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's sick. Yeah, being the official recovery partner would be very interesting. I wonder how that is that a classic case of just getting a sponsorship, or do you have to sort of work in with the medical team? Because from my experience in the marketing space, like during COVID, we were getting massive pitches from people offering placement in the EPL because a bunch of sponsors had pulled out and all that sort of stuff. So there was like dirt cheap sponsorship. Like you get a sleeve on Chelsea for maybe $100,000 a year or something like that. So is it as simple as that, or do you have to become more integrated and approved with their medical team?
No, it is quite simple.
Okay.
But we will kind of hack our way around it. Definitely not going to be paying $100,000 to be on a sleeve. Had a couple of those conversations already.
Some agent pitches you like, hey, we love the product. You could be here for just $1 million. Yeah.
So again, from a marketing perspective, as I talked about before, like conversion rate is everything. So for us, we would rather spend money on having a lot of credible teams and athletes appearing on our website, saying that they use the product, because that's going to then improve the return on all of our other spends that we do day in, day out.
Yeah.
We're bootstrapped. We're not interested in raising VC money. So we have to be kind of smart with where we spend that, because a lot of venture capital funded D2C companies just splash cash on,
they have to,
on sometimes not the most ROI effective strategies. So I kind of like the fact that it forces us to be nimble with our spending in that regard, in the branding perspective.
Do you guys see a point where you would consider a raise? Like would there be something that would make you want to do that?
Potentially.
What would it require? Would it mean that you would have to grow in an order of magnitude larger? Would it have to be a certain valuation? What's sort of the conditions of that?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of companies like Hyperice, Theragun, a few others that are Juve that are in the hundreds of millions valuation territory.
Right.
And they do acquisitions of up and coming wellness technologies.
Okay.
So it would be something in that space.
It sort of sounds like it would be getting into an ecosystem or environment where you can gain more experience with the bigger players.
Yeah.
Or the people who've already launched, so to speak. Interesting. Yeah, Juve is an interesting one. Theragun is the most interesting to me though, because they're just the biggest and most well-known. Yeah, and like the light therapy thing, it's interesting.
Yeah. Theragun, just on a side note, is a classic example of what we spoke about at the beginning of the chat with trends, and then when does a trend become not appropriate to go into anymore because there's already a massive market share by the leader in the market. So there are hundreds of identical percussion therapy devices out there right now, and I know for a fact a lot of them are struggling because they're just simply too late to enter
the market.
And Theragun's got all the credibility. Literally what they would be doing, a lot of them, is paying for Theragun's revenue.
Yeah.
They'd be generating awareness of percussion therapy through their ads, and then people do their research and be like, oh, Theragun looks the best, I'll take that.
Yeah, well, this is the thing is that no one knows it as percussion therapy, do they?
No.
Everyone just thinks that that type of massage machine is a Theragun.
Yeah.
They like that goes to show when you're a challenger brand and you can lead a category and define a category, you just become known as that. It's like everything, like being in the influencer space. The big one for me right now is, like linking. So things like Linktree. We had Linktree on last week. Honestly, the others, you look at them and they just don't look as credible as Linktree. And if anything, they just support, like when it comes to link and biotechnology, they just support Linktree because they've got the best features anyway.
Yeah.
So, and the most reviews and the biggest authority. So that's another thing to your point earlier about low competition. When you define the category and you're the first in there, you can have competitors. And if your product is good enough and still good, then even though people will enter the space, it's not, it will change things for you, but it sort of sounds like it's just going to accelerate it more than anything.
Exactly. First mover's advantage is key. If you are super, super smart and you're an absolute gun, then 100% you can take on a kind of mature industry. But it's tricky.
You've done a few of these interviews now. You get asked a lot of similar questions. The big one I see on sort of like the Daily Mails of the world is like which celebrities using the products, that sort of stuff. I'm sure you get a lot of questions around infrared saunas and the like. What's the question that you wish you asked? Like what do you wish you could talk about for 20 minutes or so on these interviews?
Honestly, I kind of enjoy talking about where people, the criteria that we talked about earlier. Like I really like that question. And to be honest, I've only been asked that like twice. Okay. I think it's super important for people to have a fundamental, like, the book Principles.
Oh yeah.
I read like kind of similar to that in the sense that you should have first principles thinking, fundamental thinking about whatever it is that you're going to do. And I really enjoy it. I could talk about that forever. Yeah.
And as a interest thing, like if you're generally interested in entrepreneurship, like things like trends and identifying those principles, so to speak, for a product is really, really interesting when you look at, it's exciting almost.
Yeah.
Because you look at a product, because I got this at the moment where I'm trying to build ventures for the talent that we manage and identify something that matches with them. So it's a bit harder because it's got to also match with their audience. But my favorite thing each week is getting the trends email and finding XYZ product that they're talking about.
Yeah. Very good.
So it's always really, really interesting to look at that sort of stuff.
We come up with ideas.
Yeah, like one recently was, so we've got this young guy who's got like 70, 80,000 followers on TikTok, growing, very funny, and he's got like a passion for rock climbing. And I saw one recently where like adventure foods are really kicking off.
Yeah.
And I remember saying this to him, like we should look at something like that, because you look at, what are those bars, the Cliff bars and stuff like that. You're like, they're all just a bit boring at the moment. So I do wonder, like boring when it comes to the packaging, the taste, I don't know, there could be something done there, I find.
Yeah.
So, and it's a space that is undertapped. You got all these famous rock climbers, they'll do a doco or two about them, but there's not many brands outside of like, Columbia or Patagonia or all these others that just like engage them. And I feel like that could be one of those things that you could really hit them up for. So
cool.
It's super exciting. All right, let's jump into some rapid fire questions to finish things off.
Cool.
Talk to me about what's been your go-to item in the fridge during lockdown.
Minced beef.
Minced beef. Yeah. Okay. Coles or Woolies?
Organic from the market. Yeah.
From which market do you go to? Pran?
Pran, yeah.
Fuck, you weren't exposed during that weekend, were you?
No, that was good.
Okay. You're lucky. Very lucky. For those who don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I think there was one person who spent the entire day at the market and no one got infected from it, but they exposed like 2,000 people, which is crazy. Best purchase under $200?
I'm probably going to plug our mutual friend, Max. His business here.
Max Hurton. Yeah, Sylvie.
But I absolutely love the Sylvie pillows.
Okay. Yeah.
I just bought the bed sheets the other day and had my first sleep in them last night. They were over $200 or $100, but they're amazing.
So what is about it that's amazing?
So obviously they're like anti-acne, good for your skin. But I personally just like them because of the feel. Like they're so soft.
Okay.
And comfortable. Even if they weren't healthy for your skin, I'd still prefer them.
Yeah, and still buy them on that basis.
Yeah.
So, like one thing I find with silk that's interesting is sometimes you can get silk products that like make your face really warm. Do you find that it does any of that, or is it like nice and cooling, so to speak?
It's pretty cooling.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's sick. And you just got the sheet as well, right?
Yeah, just got the sheets. So
yeah.
Well done, Max.
Yeah, well done, Max. It is a really cool product. He's actually over in LA. You know what's funny is he got his injection literally, like his vax, the day he landed there or the day after.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's already vaccinated. So just shows how far ahead they are with all that in the US. All right, last question for you. If you could have a billboard anywhere in Melbourne, where would it be, first of all, and what would you put on it?
Oh, this question. I would, Toorak Road and Chapel Street.
Yep.
The Channel 10 building, I think it is.
Yeah, I know exactly.
They have billboards there.
Okay.
Not the kind of guy that likes to give quick answers to such deep questions. It would take me a while to figure out an answer I'd be very happy with, but I don't know. Question everything, I'd say.
Question everything.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of where the billboard is because I've been going there recently because that price line's got The Ordinary at it. The Como Centre. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Question everything. Think deeper. Ask why. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't critically think anymore.
Yeah, we are a bit reactive with social media these days. There's no doubt about it. And particularly because we're all just stuck in these jail cells of rooms, so to speak. Ed, thank you for coming on the show. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Seeing as my LinkedIn is non-existent, I'd say just on Instagram if anyone would like to chat. It's just Ed_Hodge.
Okay.
And I promise to build out my LinkedIn.
Nice. We'll link all of that. We'll obviously link MiHIGH. I do suggest people go check it out. Like I said, I'm looking at getting it over the next month or so because, like I said, my PT is harassing me about infrared sauna. But
I'm sure we can work something out.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Infrared sauna and exchange.
Hint.
Content.
Ed, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. It was great.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you do like it, please subscribe. And of course, like if you're watching the YouTube video as well. We'd really appreciate that. You can also find our Clips channel in the description. For audio, if you're not already listening, you can search Uncommon on Pocket Cast, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts quite easily. For video, if you're not watching, you can search Uncommon on YouTube. And for behind the scenes takes and clips on social media, then definitely check out @uncommon_show on Instagram. But otherwise, look, thanks so much for tuning in. And until next time, thanks for listening.